welcome back to the People's Mirror. Now, it is very interesting that something that is very unheard of in the Kenyan political scene is now happening within the ODM party structures. And this is the party being managed by a board of trustees. Now, you'd really understand why the ODM party would get to the level of having a board of trustees to manage transition and crisis within the party. This is because first, it's the long-lasting party now other than KANU that has fronted or has been in the presidential race for the past 4 presidential elections, that is in the past 20 years. But other than that, it was the party of the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, who since his demise, a lot of squabbles have been taking part within this particular party, and there is no single figure that has actually risen to the stature of Raila Amolo Odinga to put an end to those particular squabbles. Now, this party that also seems to be the biggest voting bloc ahead of the 2027 presidential election really needs to be in order ahead of that particular presidential election, not only for the party members but also for the other members of the Kenyan political scene who would want to get into an agreement with the ODM party to form a coalition rather in the 2027 major polls. Now, recently, there has been a lot going on, including the jests and the exchanges between Honorable Edwin Sifuna, who is the Secretary General of this party, and of course Honorable Junet Mohamed, who is the minority leader in the parliament and the member of parliament for Suna East constituency, on issues including the 2022 agents money that was given by Uhuru Kenyatta to reach the agents, and according to Sifuna did not reach the agents. Now, after that, there was a call, a massive call by certain sections of the ODM party for removal of Edwin Sifuna, and there is a high-level meeting that was actually held by Honorable Oburu Odinga, and now sources reveal was convened by Honorable Ida Odinga that immediately put a stop to all these campaigns. Now, the biggest question is, who is really the party leader of the ODM party? Is it Oburu Odinga or is it Ida Odinga? In this particular episode, we want to delve into these particular statements that are coming out of the ODM camp, the reasons that would necessitate someone to the level of Ida Odinga to convene a high-level meeting to put a stop to campaign against Sifuna, and of course the reasons why Sifuna is being defended. But above it all, we want to narrow down on the position of Ida Odinga within these conversations of the ODM party now and in the 2027 major polls. Now, if this is your first time with our channel, The People's Mirror, we welcome you here, and if you are our viewer, we thank you so much. We have over 3,050 subscribers by now, and we have a journey race towards the 5,000 subscriber mark by the end of January. So if you're joining our channel for the first time, please hit the subscribe button so that you help us in attaining that journey, but most importantly, so that we recap for you and comment on what happens in the Kenyan political scene as they unfold. Now, let us start with this main story. Now, Ida Odinga has now appointed trustees to actually ensure that ODM party does not run to the ground. Before we even go into the nitty-gritties of this particular appointment, it's first important to let us first put before the mirror, at what position would Ida Odinga actually resume the position of appointing trustees to oversee the running of the ODM party when it comes to transition period and also when it comes to crisis? Because according to the structures of the ODM party, there is nowhere that Ida Odinga fits in that particular structure. The party leader is of course Oburu Odinga right now, and the party chairperson is Honorable Gladys Wanga, who is of course the governor of Homa Bay County. But this entire structure does not have anywhere the position of Ida Odinga. The only position that Ida Odinga holds vis-a-vis this particular party is the fact that she is the wife of the late Raila Amolo Odinga, who was actually the party owner and the party leader of this particular party. Now, let us infer a little bit before we come back to the Ida story. Remember in the Mandela situation, when Mandela was actually taken to Robben Island and served for all those 27 years, Winnie Mandela found an opportunity to now advance her own political career. And she was a very, very strong lady, of course, in the fight towards finding independence for the South Africans people, for the South Africans entirely, when Honorable Mandela was, of course, in Robben Island. And when Mandela came back, of course, Mandela resumed his fight for freedom and for independence, and later on became the president of the country after serving 27 years in term. Now, in prison, of course. Now, if you compare and contrast the Mandela situation with the Ida Odinga situation in the country, first, in the Ida Odinga situation, Mandela is not coming back, so Raila Amolo Odinga is not coming back. This is a natural calling, and Raila Odinga has gone to the heavens as a result of this natural process that we all go through. Number two, Ida Odinga's demeanor into politics is not that of Winnie Odinga's demeanor into politics. Ida rather portrays a very quiet, calculating political figure who plays the chess game behind doors, as compared to Winnie Mandela, who actually took it to the streets, just like Nelson Mandela's campaign in the South African structure. So here we are being portrayed with an image of a lady who is taking reins of a very renowned political figure after the death of the renowned political figure, who has the effect of actually calculating, or rather playing in a chessboard, the Kenyan political scene, not only in 2027 and beyond. And the tool that she will use to play that particular chess game between now 2027 and even above 2027 is a well-structured tool called the ODM party. And so this is one of the instances where now the close of Ida Odinga are being seen as actively being involved in the decisions of the ODM party. If the party is structured in the way that Oburu Odinga is the party leader, we expected that if Oburu Odinga's word was not final in putting the end of the squabbles between Honorable Edwin Sifuna and of course Honorable Junet Mohamed, then Oburu Odinga would have been at the best position to actually call for this particular Board of Trustees meeting and to even appoint them. But now we are seeing that the appointment supersedes Oburu Odinga, and Oburu Odinga just sits into the appointment as one of the appointees of Ida Odinga, portraying an image that might not now be ignored in the Kenyan political scene moving forward, and might be the force that give certain individuals the bravery that they have while they are speaking for the ODM party that goes beyond Oburu Odinga. But first, let us go back to these statements that were made in the decisions that was made by Ida Odinga before we read much into the motive behind the appointment of this Board of Trustees. Now, at this point, of course, it's very clear that the party leader now might be superseding Oburu Odinga and might be bordering between a position that is being shared between Oburu Odinga and, of course, Ida Odinga jointly. Now, Raila has hardly gone for 3 months, and you have seen the squabbles that is coming out of the party that he started, and these squabbles are very strange. At first, these were statements that were being made when Raila was alive, and of course Raila as the party leader had the ambit and the power to actually tame these statements when they were being made. But now these statements are being attacked differently. Honorable Sifuna is actually being attacked across board, from MCS to the president. The president, of course, attacked Sifuna directly when Raila was still alive. Now, these squabbles keep mounting to the level that yesterday we were detailing an embarrassment coming from a senator of Migori County who had actually prompted a motion to de-whip Honorable Sifuna. So the escalation of these particular squabbles called for a voice to put an order to them. And people tried. You saw Honorable Otindi Amolo and of course Honorable Millie Odhiambo holding press conferences and calling to order the ODM party, asking them to actually honor the spirit of Raila Amolo Odinga if they were not to honor individual respect among themselves. But it seemed like these particular calls from within the party structures themselves were not working. Of course, Wanga does not sit in a position to call for unity, because Wanga herself is actually being blamed to have picked a side with this particular ODM fight. So who did we expect to put a final stop to these statements? The party leader, Honorable Oburu Odinga. And Oburu Odinga called for unity of all these structures, but while Oburu Odinga was calling for unity of all these structures, other senators were of course already writing letters asking for the whipping of certain members of the party for gross misconduct, even asking for expulsion. So the question remained, who would have had the overall conduct or the overall power that if they gave the direction for the ODM party, then the ODM party would have followed suit. And now it seems very clearly that the only person that is left, pardon me for that grammatical mistake, that is left in the spot for having had the mandate, or for having the mandate to actually now give direction that will be followed by the party officials, will be followed by the people who are serving in government and in different positions, including member of parliaments, in senatorial positions, in governance together and will also be followed by the masses that support the ODM party is none other than the wife of the late Raila Amolo Odinga, Ida Odinga. So there is fear that there is a group that want to distract the ODM party, of course, ahead of the 2027 major poll, and to create a distraction within the party that now removes the soul of the party and the decisions of the party from the central point and leaves the party distracted across all sections. And of course, there's also another fear of disintegration. Now, this disintegration is feared to happen from the structures of the leaderships themselves right now. Like, for example, if we are talking about distractors and, for example, disintegration, then let's put it in context. If Sifuna was right now to be ousted from the position of the Secretary General, then of course the National Executive Committee of the ODM party will be disintegrated. There is a section of it that would decide, okay, if Sifuna is out, then we are going with Sifuna. And there is a section of it that would say, let's remain. Osotsi had actually threatened, saying that they are in the party to stay, and if one of them was to leave, then it's not only Sifuna leaving. You'd see now Osotsi leaving, and Osotsi is the deputy party leader, and Osotsi and Sifuna leaving means the lower bloc might also be considering leaving the ODM party. So this disintegration has a very huge effect if it is let to take place. And there's also distractors, people who are trying to of course portray a particular image while they are also being accused or having conversations of getting into a coalition with the party against the party position. So these concerns of distraction and these concerns of disintegration ahead of the 2027 major polls is also one of the very, very main ingredients in this particular in squabbles that are going on within the ODM party. Now, these trustees were appointed by Honorable Ida Odinga, and these trustees were given one mandate. Their mandate is to ensure the overall management and stability of the ODM party. And when are they supposed to oversee this management and stability of the ODM party? According to the appointment, and sources reveal that according to this appointment that was given by Ida Odinga, their scope were limited to when the party is going through a transition period or when the party is in crisis. So there is a board of trustees, just like companies, and ODM party is now portraying itself as the first political party that is now being managed actually just like a company. And so it shows this structure where if the decisions cannot be made by the National Executive Committee, then take the decision to the national party leaders. And if the decision cannot be made by the deputy party leaders and the national party chairperson, then take the decision to the party leader. And if the decision cannot be made by the party leader, or if it can be made by the party leader but not a lot of people will rally behind it, if it is made by the party leader, then escalate that decision to now the trustees or the board that has now been appointed by Ida. And this is the board that will now make a determination on whether that decision that has been made by the National Executive Committee, the decision that has been made by the deputy party leaders and the national chairperson of the party, the decision that will have been made by Oburu as the party leader, will now have its ratification done by these particular trustees that have been appointed by Ida. This creates Ida's position to supersede that of Oburu, not only by an inch but by far, because if Oburu's decision will be verified by a board of trustees that is appointed by Ida, then it remains that Ida Odinga still sits as the helm of the ODM party leadership. And the effect of this is that this particular decision is coming at a time when, just as I hinted when we were starting this particular episode, that it's coming at a time when Sifuna was facing very, very strong challenges and pressure that is coming from all corners within the party. And Mr. Sifuna's pressure is the challenges that he's facing is just to pressure him to get out of the party. Right now, they don't even want him to get out of the position of the Secretary General. The pressure is so much that they want Sifuna to get out of the party. And so perhaps this is what Ida saw. He took a look at it from the point of who wants Sifuna out and what is the history of this person that wants Sifuna out vis-a-vis their loyalty with Raila Odinga. And who is Edwin Sifuna? And what is the history of Edwin Sifuna and his closeness with Raila Odinga? And what is the position that needs to be adopted? And so perhaps when Oburu made the decision asking for Sifuna to be contained within the party, saying that he's a very sober mind that the party needs moving forward, the sections of the ODM factions that are pro the broad-based arrangement still felt that Oburu's words were not final. And so Ida, instead of putting herself as the overall decision beyond Oburu, created an institution that is bigger than herself and Oburu, a board of trustees, to actually oversee the decision and the campaigns against Sifuna's Sifuna's removal. And this particular Board of Trustees said this particular move and campaign to oust Sifuna is not good for the ODM party and does not, of course, have the blessings of the power brokers of the ODM party. The entire thing is, I do not want to say this directly, so that it comes like I'm superseding the position of my party leader and of course the person that is resuming the position of Raila Amolo Odinga, but I want to bring it from a board perspective where it is going to be an adopted opinion of the many and of course of very influential figures that Oburu Odinga will not see that I, in quotes, Ida Odinga is the person making these calls. When you're talking about blessings of the ODM power brokers and a decision being made by a Board of Trustees beyond the position of Oburu Odinga, and we're looking at the person appointing this Board of Trustees to be Ida Odinga, and the outcome is that Sifuna's position should stay because it does not have blessings of the power brokers of the ODM party. It is very, very clear that this Board of Trustees is just a creation that is created by Madam Ida Odinga to enforce her position over Oburu Odinga, and that position might be the position that is good for the party in this particular instance. Remembering that Sifuna's attack is one that ranges from MCA positions all the way to the president. The president at some time was quoted directly telling Sifuna that I have heard Sifuna speaking, and if Sifuna you keep on speaking like that, then you should remember that I, the president, again in quotes, is among the founder members of the ODM party, and it might get to a level where now I can convene the co-members of the ODM party and a disciplinary action will be meted against you. Those are some of the phrased statements that were quoted by the president directly and directed to Edwin Sifuna. Now, if you take a look at the fact that 20 years celebration of the ODM party was just done the other day, and among the key guests that actually attended was Amos Wako, who now sits in this Board of Trustees committee that was appointed by Ida Odinga, but of course President William Ruto also attended as a guest and as a primary founder of the party. Now Raila Odinga is not there, who could defend Sifuna very publicly in the public rallies and say that whatever Sifuna is saying is for the party. Now Sifuna is left at a platform that if he speaks and the broad-based arrangement or broad-based members become populous than him in his speech, then he risks being ousted as the member of course, as in the positions that he holds by the virtue of being the Secretary General of the party, and of course the positions that he holds as a result of being the senator under the ODM party ticket. And right now it is very, very easy for President William Ruto to actually punish Sifuna and call Sifuna for punishment because Raila Amolo Odinga is not there to defend him. And so the move by Ida Odinga is to reinstate the position of Raila Odinga that if the punishment of Sifuna seems imminent and no person can actually stand to defend him, then the Odinga's family will defend him, even if it means creating a Board of Trustees beyond the party elements and the party constitution to oversee the party position. But the defense or the position that Ida is now using to defend this particular move is that this move is necessary to ensure that the ODM party does not go down to the ground in this particular transition period and of course in this particular period of crisis. Now, why is Sifuna on the spot? Why is Mr. Sifuna on the spot? Most people within the broad-based government are accusing Mr. Sifuna of working with enemies, and enemies in this particular spectrum is of course President Uhuru Kenyatta. They are saying that Sifuna is in cohort with President Uhuru Kenyatta to lead a section of the ODM away from the broad-based arrangement and of course support President Uhuru Kenyatta's candidature in the 2027 presidential seat. Now, while these statements are being made, another section of the broad-based of the ODM party are also being accused of actually propelling the broad-based agenda and promising to support Honorable William Ruto in 2027 and beyond against Honorable Raila Odinga's primary wishes. So this position actually rattles feathers with a lot of people. Sifuna is accusing a section of the party to actually be auctioning the party in terms of championing for the re-election of President William Ruto against the statements of Raila Odinga, while Sifuna himself is actually being blamed for actually taking funds from Uhuru Kenyatta and now selling the party in quotes to support Uhuru Kenyatta's candidature, whoever Uhuru Kenyatta will now provide as a candidate in the 2027 seat, either being Honorable Okengo Matiang'i or Honorable Kalonzo, that both Sifuna, Orengo and Ida Odinga herself have actually showed to actually be welcoming towards compared to their statements when they are being made in regard to President William Ruto. So there is this concern that if Sifuna is left left unhinged the way it's unhinged, then a section of the ODM party might vote for Honorable Kalonzo, and this will of course affect the joint negotiating power of the party in the 2027 table. So for how long will of course Odinga's legacy and Odinga's honor or Odinga's wish hold them ransom? For some members like Sama Tandi, who actually now, as a result of Raila Odinga's influence, replaced Ndindi Nyoro's position in the parliament, their allegiance for President William Ruto has been cemented. And of course, they are dealing with the political scene as one that evolves. And the fact that Raila Odinga is not in the scene anymore, you can see that their loyalty for President William Ruto is already cemented. So these are some of the individuals that feel that Odinga's wish post-death really does not hold them ransom as much. And so Sifuna should also move on in those particular lights, where the majority, if the majority decides that they want to go pro the broad-based arrangement, then this particular section of individuals feel like Sifuna should not interfere with that particular decision. They feel like Raila Odinga's wishes should not hold them ransom post his death. But other individuals feel like we should honor Raila Amolo Odinga beyond his death, and that is why the Sifuna likes and the likes of Orengo and the other likes who are looking at broad-based arrangement as the last signing document that Raila signed to instigate the fact that that broad-based arrangement was to end with the 2027, still keep holding that thought, because they feel that they are holding that particular thought in remembrance and in honoring of Raila Amolo Odinga's spirits. Now, sources reveal that this high-level meeting that involved parties, board members and others, including Ida Odinga herself, is the one that put a stop to, of course, these campaigns to remove and expel Edwin Sifuna from the party. It is also revealed that the reason they gave is that, as I hinted in the beginning of this episode, that particular campaign did not have the blessing of the ODM party. So it's safe to say that the letters that were written by Eddie Oketch to actually de-whip Sifuna from the position that he sits within the Senate and expel him from the party were actual decisions that caught the National Election Committee and the entire leadership of the ODM party by surprise, because they had not intended for such a decision to get there. And the reason is this: they see that if you start things like these ones that Eddie Oketch was starting, then you risk giving this whatever the motion you have started a life of its own. And when you give it a life of its own, different people could invest in it within the ODM party and outside the ODM party to see that it actually goes through. And the effect of it would be so huge that come 2027, the ODM party will lack a common negotiating front in whichever side that they decide to go to. Now, you might think that you're doing it in favor of the broad-based arrangement, but brokers can get into it, sponsor it, remove Sifuna from that position, cause an internal division within the ODM party, that come 2027, the ODM party is just but a shell that cannot negotiate even for the broad-based arrangement that you are doing it for. And so the leaders of the ODM party saw that particular move by Eddie Oketch as a very rash one that was not discussed within the party structures. And that is why, after they discussed it with Eddie Oketch, the following day, the lawyers of the Eddie Oketch wrote another letter departing from that original one to take away any mindset of any individual or political broker that wanted to use that as an advantage to do away with Raila Odinga's political party for using that. Now, that was a very smart move from the ODM party, because of course these things always take lives of their own. And so when you have started a motion against Sifuna, you might just start it as a senator that sits next to Sifuna, of course, in the Senate, but other power brokers that are looking at that party as a threat, or if they are maintaining power in 2027, can actually get into it, broker it, turn it into something so huge that makes the ODM party a shell in the negotiating table in 2027. Now, the party has shelved Oketch's letter until the top party officials will meet and they will settle the truce between Junet Mohammed and Sifuna. And of course, this is the biggest fight that now exists within the party. Every other person that fights the Secretary General is now behind Junet Mohammed, and every other person that defends the Secretary General of the party is now behind Sifuna. But there is a necessity for these two to come together in a truce so that the ODM party can survive the winds of 2026 and becomes a very strong party in the negotiating table in 2027. Whether they decide to go in a coalition again the way they have done with NASA, CORD, had, and of course Azimio in the past with President William Ruto, or whether they decide to join the united opposition or front a candidate of their own in 2027, one thing remains very important, that they remain united and a block in that particular decision in 2027. And any decision that is being made right now that can take away that power of being a block in the table of negotiation in 2027 should not be treated as a matter of urgency now within the ODM party structures. Here at the People's Mirror, it's been a pleasure recapping the position of Ida Odinga in all this, and the position of Oburu Odinga, and of course now the position of this Board of Trustees that is running the ODM party as a company. Keep it here until our next episode. This is the People's Mirror.